How Japanese housewives' habits can keep people out of debt. There is a woman in Osaka who has never missed a bill payment in 31 years. She doesn't earn more than the average household. She doesn't invest in stocks. She has never read a book about personal finance. And yet her family has no debt. They have savings. They sleep without the particular kind of dread that follows money. When her daughter asked her how she did it, the woman simply opened a small notebook. Worn at the corners,
the pages soft with use. Inside, column after column of handwritten numbers. Every cup of tea, every train fare, every yen that passed through her hands, recorded with quiet intention. She called it her kakeibo, her household ledger. And for her, it was never a chore. It was, she said, a conversation with herself. In most of the modern world, money is a source of noise. It moves fast, hides easily, and vanishes before we understand where it went. Credit cards made spending invisible. Smartphones made it frictionless. Algorithms were built, specifically built, to make sure we act before we think, to buy before we feel doubt, to scroll past reason and land directly in the checkout screen. The result is predictable. Consumer debt in the United States crossed $5 trillion. The average British household carries over £10,000 in unsecured debt. In Australia, in Canada, across Western Europe, the same story wearing different clothes. People who work full-time, who are not reckless or careless, who consider themselves responsible, quietly drowning in obligations they made during ordinary Tuesdays. And the strange thing is, they often don't know how it happened. There was no single catastrophic decision, just 1,000 small ones, each reasonable on its own. A coffee here, a subscription there. A pair of shoes bought not from need but from a feeling, a momentary softness toward the future self that would wear them. This is not a moral failing. It is the architecture of modern commerce, working exactly as designed. But somewhere in that architecture, there is a gap. And certain people have always known how to live inside it. Japan from the outside seems like a country that should be consumed by consumption. It is the birthplace of global convenience culture. Vending machines on every corner. Convenience stores open at 3 in the morning, offering 40 kinds of onigiri. Capsule toy machines in train stations. Department stores so vast they have their own postal codes. Japan, by all appearances, should produce the most impulsive spenders on earth. And yet, the country maintains one of the highest household savings rates among developed nations. Personal bankruptcy is considered a profound social shame. And hidden inside the domestic architecture of millions of ordinary Japanese homes is a financial tradition that has been quietly passed from mother to daughter for generations. It was never called a system. It was never marketed. It didn't have a celebrity spokesperson or a best-selling app. It was simply the way things were done, the way a household stayed whole. It was the practice of the shufu, the household manager, the one who holds the family's money. In traditional Japanese households, the woman manages the finances entirely, not as a limitation, as a role of profound responsibility. The husband earns, the wife allocates. And she allocates with a seriousness that most financial institutions never ask of their clients. She knows the exact cost of every category of life: food, utilities, transport, children's education, savings, the small pleasures that make a life feel like a life. She does not estimate. She records. And she records not because she was taught to fear scarcity, but because she was taught to respect the weight of money. That yen did not fall from the sky. It came from someone's hours, someone's fatigue, someone's Tuesday. This is not budgeting in the way we typically understand it. It is something closer to stewardship.
The kakeibo, the word means roughly household account book, was formalized in 1904 by a woman named Hani Motoko, one of Japan's first female journalists.
She understood something about human psychology that behavioral economists would not confirm for another 70 years, that the act of writing by hand creates a kind of friction. A pause, a small gap between impulse and action. When you write down what you spent, you must face it, not on a screen, not in a color-coded app that softens the information with gradients and progress bars, in ink, on paper, in your own handwriting, which is to say in your own voice. The kakeibo asks you at the start of every month 4 questions. How much money do I have? How much do I want to save? How much am I spending? And finally, perhaps the most subversive question in the entire financial world, how can I improve? That last question is not rhetorical. It asks you to sit with your own patterns, to look at what you bought, not just how much, and to ask, with genuine curiosity rather than guilt, what that spending reveals about what you were feeling. The shufu who has practiced kakeibo for decades does not see her ledger as a record of discipline. She sees it as a record of her inner life, translated into numbers. There is a concept in Japan called mottainai. It translates roughly as "what a waste," but the word carries something heavier than its English equivalent. Mottainai holds grief in it, the grief of a thing not fully appreciated, not fully used, discarded before its time. A child who throws away food is told, mottainai. A coat worn twice and forgotten. Mottainai. An impulse purchase left in a drawer. Mottainai. This is not austerity. It is not the kind of self-denial that wears itself as virtue. It is something stranger and quieter, a genuine sorrow at the loss of potential, a feeling that things have value beyond their price tag, and that throwing something away carelessly is a small act of ingratitude. In financial terms, this translates into a radical resistance to waste.
The Japanese concept of using something fully, wearing it until it's truly worn, repairing before replacing, cooking every part of an ingredient, is not driven by poverty. Many Japanese households that practice this have sufficient income. They simply see waste as a kind of moral untidiness, an imbalance in the world that they, personally, would prefer not to create. But there is a deeper layer to this. The psychologist Sherry Turkle once observed that we buy things not for what they are, but for the feelings we believe they will bring us. We are not purchasing a coat. We are purchasing warmth. We are not buying new furniture. We are buying the version of ourselves who lives in a more beautiful home. The Japanese housewife, through generations of quiet practice, has developed an almost instinctive fluency in this distinction. Before purchasing something, she does not ask only, "Can I afford this?" She asks, "Why do I want this? What am I actually looking for?" This is not a philosophy she learned from a book. It was transmitted through example, through watching her mother pause at a shop window, through understanding, as a child, that desire and need are not the same animal. The kakeibo formalizes this. It asks you to categorize spending not just by type, but by emotional motivation. Was this a necessity? A want? A moment of cultural indulgence? Something unexpected? The categories themselves are a kind of self-therapy. They ask you to name your relationship to the thing you bought, not just to record its price. Over months, patterns emerge. And those patterns are not just financial. They are psychological. They reveal what you reach for when you're tired, what you buy when you feel unseen. What spending means for you specifically in the particular shape of your life. There is also something profound in the family-centered nature of this thinking. In Japan, financial decisions are rarely framed as personal indulgences.
They exist within a larger conversation about the household, about the children's futures, about the parents who may one day need care, about the family's stability as a collective project. Saving is not self-denial. Saving is an act of love directed forward through time. This reframes everything. When the choice is between something you want now and your child's educational security, the calculus changes. When you think of your savings not as a number in an account, but as a form of protection extended toward the people you love most, it stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like intention. The shufu is not managing money. She is managing the future.
There is a Japanese word ma that refers to the conscious use of empty space, the pause between notes in music, the silence in a conversation that allows meaning to breathe. Architects use it, poets use it, and perhaps without naming it, the Japanese housewife uses it in financial life too. The pause before the purchase, the deliberate gap between desire and action, the month-end review, sitting quietly at a table, opening the kakibo, not in anxiety, but in curiosity. Modern financial anxiety is in large part an anxiety of speed, of decisions made faster than understanding, of money that moves before the mind catches up. What these women have known, quietly across generations, is that slowing down is not a weakness. It is a form of intelligence, that the relationship you have with money is at its core, the relationship you have with your own attention. And attention, in a world that is constantly fighting for it, is the rarest resource of all. Somewhere in Japan tonight, a woman is sitting at a low table after dinner. The children are asleep. The house is quiet in the particular way that Japanese homes are quiet. Completely, as though even the walls are resting. She opens a small notebook. She reviews the month. She does not feel fear. She does not feel deprivation. She feels, if anything, a kind of clarity. The satisfaction of a life examined, of resources honored, of a family sleeping soundly held in place by something as simple and as radical as paying attention. She is not wealthy. She is not extraordinary. She is not following a trend or a movement or a philosophy she found online. She is simply continuing a practice older than any financial system that claims to help us. And tomorrow, when the new month begins, she will open to a fresh page and ask the only questions that matter. What do I have? What do I need? What do I want to leave behind?